You didn't find this video. The field found you. Think about it. The delay that made you open YouTube right now, the strange impulse to click on this title among thousands of others, the fact that this showed up in your feed at this exact moment, none of that is random. Everything had to align perfectly for you to be here reading these words. I remember when I was at my lowest point, completely lost, and a random video popped up that said exactly what I needed to hear. Not the next day, not a week later, that moment, like the universe knew the question before I even asked it. That's how the field works. It uses coincidences to wake you up. So here's what I want you to consider. What if this isn't an accident? What if this is the exact moment consciousness wants to recognize itself through you, in a way you've never experienced before? When I talk about field here, I'm not talking about something mystical floating in the clouds. I'm talking about everything that exists right now. Your thoughts, emotions, the people around you, the situations unfolding, all of it vibrating together as one continuous energy. Those delays, those wrong turns, those sudden impulses to do something, they're not chaos. They're the field organizing reality, so you can remember what you've always felt deep down. You are way more than this body chasing things. This video isn't here to teach you something new from the outside. It's here to help you remember what matter, energy, vibration, and consciousness really are, and how reality bends differently the moment you see yourself as energy instead of just flesh and bones. You know that feeling when you're carrying groceries up the stairs and each bag feels heavier with every step? That's how I used to carry my entire life. Every morning I'd wake up already calculating. Bills due next week, meetings at 9, gym at 6, gotta answer those emails, gotta look productive, gotta prove I'm worth something to someone who's probably not even paying attention. Everything felt dense, solid, unmovable, like I was dragging matter through more matter, hoping friction wouldn't burn me alive. I remember sitting in my car before walking into the office, hands gripping the steering wheel so tight my knuckles turned white. My chest had this constant pressure, like someone placed a concrete block right there and forgot to remove it. The funny thing? Nothing bad was actually happening. I had a decent job, paid my rent, looked fine from the outside. But inside, man, it felt like I was a character in a game who thinks the screen is all there is, never suspecting there's something way bigger holding the controller. Here's what messed me up the most. I genuinely believed I was just this body, this resume, this collection of opinions people had about me. If someone asked, "Who are you?" I'd rattle off labels like they were carved in stone. My job title, my degrees, my relationship status, my bank account. I thought that's what reality was. Hard facts you can touch and measure. And because I saw myself only as matter, the world around me felt equally rigid. It pushed back. It demanded more. It never bent. The weight wasn't just mental, it showed up physically. My shoulders were always tense, jaw clenched even in sleep, stomach in knots before any important conversation. I'd force myself through days like I was swimming through cement, convinced that more effort was the answer. If I just worked harder, achieved more, controlled everything better, maybe then I'd feel light. Spoiler, I never did. The consciousness observing all this suffering was buried so deep under the pile of shoulds that I couldn't even hear it whispering. Looking back, the crazy part is how that narrow vision made everything harder than it needed to be. When you see yourself as just dense matter in a material world, there's no flexibility, no flow, no room for the unexpected magic that happens when you stop gripping so damn tight. Every setback felt like proof that the universe was against me. Every closed door like a personal attack. I was living in a field of infinite possibility, but I couldn't see it, because I thought I was just a solid thing bumping into other solid things. And here's where it gets interesting, because what I didn't know then was that a single crack in that belief would change absolutely everything. There's this moment that still gives me chills when I think about it. I was in the middle of what looked like a regular Tuesday. Nothing special, nothing tragic, when I got a phone call that flipped everything upside down. Someone close to me was in the hospital, serious situation, and I needed to get there fast. But here's the weird part. As I hung up the phone, time didn't speed up like you'd expect in a crisis. It slowed way down. Everything became hyper clear, almost cinematic. And I felt this strange sensation of watching myself move through the room, grabbing keys, putting on shoes, like I was observing my own life from somewhere above and behind my body. The drive there is burned into my memory. Total silence except for the hum of the engine. My hands on the wheel, but it's like they belonged to someone else. And in that silence, something cracked open. Not dramatically, not with angels singing, but quietly, like glass spiderwebbing before it shatters. I realized I was aware of my panic, which meant some part of me wasn't panicking. I was watching my thoughts spiral, feeling my heart race, noticing my breath get shallow. But who was doing the noticing? That question hung in the air like smoke, and for the first time in my life, I couldn't answer it with my usual labels. When I finally got to the hospital and sat in that sterile waiting room under fluorescent lights that buzzed too loud, I kept staring at my hands. These hands that I'd always called mine, this body I'd always called me. Suddenly they felt more like a vehicle than an identity. It's hard to explain without sounding crazy, but there was this gap, this space of pure consciousness, just witnessing everything unfold. The fear was there. The love was there. The desperate hope was there. But they were all happening inside something vast and still, something that wasn't made of matter at all. That's when the structure started crumbling for real. You know how a windshield looks after a rock hits it? The glass is still there, technically functional, but you can see the cracks spreading in every direction and you know it's never going back to how it was. That's what happened to my old worldview. I couldn't unsee what I'd just seen. That I was somehow bigger than my circumstances, more spacious than my story, and that maybe, just maybe, what I'd been calling solid reality was more like a frequency my consciousness was tuned into than an unchangeable fact. The question that wouldn't leave me alone after that was simple but terrifying. If I can observe my thoughts, my emotions, my body, my entire life situation from this quiet space of awareness, then what am I really? Am I the character or am I the one watching the character? Am I the wave or the ocean? That crack in perception didn't give me answers. It gave me something way more unsettling and exciting. It gave me doubt about everything I thought was fixed. And that doubt, my friend, was the doorway opening. What came next showed me that once you start seeing yourself as more than just dense matter, the field around you starts responding in ways that'll make you question everything. Let me ask you something. Have you ever thought about someone you haven't seen in years and then, boom, they text you out of nowhere that same day? Or walked into a room where people just had an argument, and even though everyone's smiling, you can feel the tension thick enough to cut with a knife. That's not magic, that's not coincidence. That's you reading energy. You've been doing it your whole life. You just never had permission to trust it. We're all walking around like human antennas, picking up vibrations from everything and everyone. But we've been trained to ignore the signals and only believe what we can see and touch. Here's a simple one that'll prove my point. Close your eyes right now and imagine biting into a fresh lemon. Really picture it, the juice squirting, the sour taste hitting your tongue. Notice what happens in your body. Your mouth probably started watering, right? Maybe you even made a face. But here's the thing, there's no actual lemon. No matter involved at all. Just a thought, just energy moving through your consciousness, and your body responded like it was real. That's the field at work. Your biology doesn't distinguish between real and imagined. It responds to the frequency you're broadcasting internally. Now think about the people in your life. You know that friend who lights up every room they walk into? You feel better just being near them, like they're recharging your battery without saying a word. And then there's that other person, nice enough on paper, but after 20 minutes with them, you're drained, exhausted, like they pulled the plug on your energy. Nothing objective happened, no physical transaction, but the vibration they carry, the frequency they emit, either lifts you up or pulls you down. You've felt this 1,000 times, you just weren't calling it what it is. Energetic exchange. Think about your own patterns too. When you wake up anxious, replaying yesterday's mistakes or tomorrow's fears, notice how the whole day tends to match that station. Traffic's worse, people are ruder, everything feels harder. But on those rare mornings when you wake up clear, present, maybe even grateful, suddenly green lights appear, kind strangers smile, Opportunities show up like they were waiting for you. Same city, same job, same life on paper. But the field around you rearranged itself to match the frequency you were putting out. You're like a radio station broadcasting 24/7, and reality is the listener tuning in to whatever signal you're transmitting. The beautiful and terrifying truth is this: you're not a solid object bumping through a solid world. You're a pattern of energy, a vibration of consciousness, moving through a field that's constantly reading you and reflecting you back to yourself. Every thought shifts your frequency. Every emotion sends ripples through the space around you. And once you start paying attention to this, once you stop dismissing your gut feelings and weird vibes as nonsense, you begin to see that matter is just energy slowed down enough to look solid. The question isn't whether you're energy. You always have been. The question is, what frequency are you broadcasting right now? And is it creating the reality you actually want? Hold that thought, because what I'm about to share next will show you exactly how powerful this shift really is. I'll never forget the moment I stopped chasing a specific relationship and started showing up as someone who didn't need anyone to complete them. For months, I'd been operating from this quiet desperation, checking my phone constantly, overanalyzing every text, bending myself into shapes to be what I thought they wanted. Classic scarcity energy, right? Then one night, exhausted from the mental gymnastics, I just let go. Not in a dramatic, I'm done way, but in a deep, cellular way. I stopped needing it to happen. I stopped performing. I became okay with being alone, genuinely okay, and something inside me settled into a frequency of wholeness instead of lack. Within 2 weeks, I'm not exaggerating, 3 things happened that still blow my mind. First, that person I'd been chasing suddenly started reaching out more, but by then I'd already moved on internally. Second, someone I'd known casually for years suddenly saw me differently and expressed interest out of nowhere. Third, and this is the kicker, I met someone completely new in the most random situation, and the connection was effortless, magnetic, nothing like the struggle I'd been living in before. The field didn't respond to my words or my wishes. It responded to the shift in my vibration. I went from, I need someone to feel complete, to, I'm already whole, and reality bent to match that frequency. Same thing happened with money, though it took me longer to crack that code. I used to grip my finances so tight, checking my bank account 5 times a day, panicking over every expense, living in constant fear of not having enough. That energy of scarcity? It kept me stuck in scarcity. Then I had this weird moment of surrender during a particularly broke month. I literally said out loud, okay, I trust that what I need will show up. Not fake trust, not manifestation affirmations, but real, bone-deep trust. I stopped obsessing. I stopped the desperate hustle. I focused on showing up with value and integrity instead of fear and grasping. 2 opportunities appeared within days that I never could have predicted or forced. One was a freelance gig from someone I hadn't talked to in over a year, who somehow thought of me at the exact moment they needed help. The other was a partial refund on something I'd written off months ago. Money I'd completely forgotten about just showed up. Were these coincidences? Maybe. Or maybe the field around me stopped reflecting lack and started reflecting trust. When you change your internal position, not what you say, but what you genuinely embody in your body and heart, the external world reorganizes itself like iron filings around a magnet. Here's what I learned through these experiences. The field doesn't care about your positive affirmations or vision boards. It reads the silent frequency you're broadcasting every second, the one your nervous system is pumping out, the one your subconscious believes is true. When I was desperate for love, I got distance. When I became whole, love showed up. When I was terrified about money, it stayed tight. When I relaxed into trust, it flowed. This isn't woo-woo theory, this is pattern recognition. Once you see yourself as energy instead of matter, you realize you're not trying to get things from a resistant universe. You're adjusting your frequency so the field can deliver what matches it. And if you think that's wild, wait until you feel it in your own body right now. All right, let's stop talking about this and actually feel it. If you're in a safe space, not driving, not walking, I want you to close your eyes for a moment. If you can't close them, just soften your gaze and let it rest somewhere neutral. First, notice your body wherever it's making contact with something. Your feet on the floor, your back against the chair, your hands resting somewhere. Don't try to change anything, don't try to relax or fix anything, just notice. Notice the weight, the temperature, the small sensations that are always there but usually ignored. This is you becoming aware of matter, the physical vehicle you've been calling me your whole life. Now bring your attention to the sounds around you. Maybe there's traffic outside, a hum from electronics, someone moving in another room, or just silence with tiny ambient noise underneath. Notice that these sounds appear in your awareness without you doing anything. They just show up, and something in you registers them. That something is consciousness, the field that's aware of everything happening. Here's the interesting part. Notice the space between sounds. That gap, that silence before the next noise arrives. That's not empty. That's the field itself, pure and awake, just being. Bring your attention now to your breathing. Don't control it. Don't make it deeper or slower. Just watch it like you're witnessing something happening on its own. Breath comes in, breath goes out. Thoughts appear. Am I doing this right? This feels weird. What's for dinner? Let them come. Let them go. Notice that you're aware of the thoughts, which means you're not the thoughts. You're the space in which thoughts appear and disappear. That space, that consciousness observing everything, has been here the whole time. It's not produced by your brain. Your brain is appearing inside it. Now here's where it gets wild. Try to feel where you end and the room begins. Seriously, try to find the exact boundary between your body and the air around it. You'll notice it's not as clear as you thought. There's sensation, vibration, temperature gradients, but no hard line. It's all one continuous field of energy being perceived by consciousness. Your body isn't a separate object in a room. It's a denser pattern of vibration arising within the same field as everything else. The sounds, the air, the walls, your thoughts, your heartbeat. All of it is the field recognizing itself through different frequencies. Take one more breath and notice the difference between two ways of being. Me trying to control and figure everything out, versus me allowing the field to move through this body without resistance. Feel that shift. It's subtle but unmistakable. One feels tight, effortful, like swimming upstream. The other feels open, curious, like floating downstream while still being aware. You're not giving up agency. You're aligning with the energy that's already moving everything. When you open your eyes, you're not going back to being a solid person in a solid world. You're returning as awareness wearing a body, moving through a field that responds to your frequency. And now that you've felt this, the question becomes, how do you live from this place when you're stuck in traffic, dealing with annoying people, or facing real problems? So how do you actually live this without it becoming just another spiritual concept you nod at but never practice? Here's what changed my mornings. Instead of grabbing my phone the second I wake up and diving into everyone else's energy, the news, the emails, the drama, I started asking myself one simple question. What frequency am I tuning into right now? Not in a cosmic, abstract way, but literally checking in with my body. Am I starting the day already anxious, already behind, already in lack? Or can I give myself 30 seconds to just breathe and choose a different station before the world rushes in? That small pause shifts everything because you're not reacting from yesterday's frequency. You're consciously setting today's vibration. Same thing with communication. Before I respond to a difficult text or email, especially when I feel that surge of defensiveness or anger rising, I stop and ask, am I about to respond from fear, from ego, from the need to be right, or from presence? Most of the time, if I'm honest, my first impulse is pure reactivity, matter colliding with matter, ego defending territory. But when I pause, even for 10 seconds, and let that reactive energy pass through without acting on it, a different response emerges. One that's clear, grounded, aligned. The outcome is almost always better, and I don't carry the residue of regret afterward. That's what it means to live as energy. You stop being hijacked by every stimulus and start choosing which frequency you broadcast. Here's a practical one that'll save you so much unnecessary suffering. Start making decisions based on what keeps your energy intact, not what keeps people happy. I used to say yes to everything. Events I didn't want to attend, favors that drained me, conversations that felt toxic, because I was terrified of disappointing someone or being seen as selfish. But when you understand your energy first, matter second, you realize that protecting your vibration isn't selfish, it's survival. Now I filter everything through this question. Does this elevate my frequency or drain it? If it drains, I either say no or I change how I engage with it. Simple examples. I stopped following accounts that made me feel inadequate. I started choosing podcasts and books that expand consciousness instead of feeding fear. I limited time with people who only complain and never grow. Challenges and obstacles? They're not proof that this energy stuff doesn't work. They're invitations from the field saying, hey, there's still a part of you vibrating in fear, lack, or old identity. Want to upgrade that? When something difficult shows up now, instead of collapsing into, why is this happening to me? I get curious. What frequency am I holding that attracted this situation and what's trying to shift? Sometimes the answer is immediate. Sometimes it takes days. But that reframe alone changes how you move through hard times. You stop being a victim of circumstances and start being a co-creator adjusting the dial. Living as energy isn't about achieving some perfect Zen state where nothing bothers you. It's about remembering, multiple times a day, especially when you forget, that you are not the problem in front of you. You're the consciousness observing it, the field adjusting to new information, the vibration that can shift in an instant. You're not this body in this story trying desperately to control a rigid world. Your energy, dressed up as matter for a little while, moving through a responsive field that's always listening to what you're broadcasting. The moment you really see yourself this way, reality stops pushing back and starts dancing with you. Remember how this started? You didn't find this video. The field organized everything to bring you here. Maybe that's less about learning something new and more about finally admitting what you've always felt. I'm way more than this body chasing results and avoiding pain. You're not becoming special or enlightened. You're just living with more honesty about what's already happening. Thoughts, emotions, situations appearing inside a consciousness that's never been touched by any of it. Think of it like an ocean that forgot it was an ocean and spent years thinking it was just one anxious wave terrified of breaking. The real coming home isn't a journey somewhere far away. It's relaxing that contraction that thought it was only matter and allowing yourself to be, once again, energy in motion. So here's your move. Right now, say this with real sincerity. Today I choose to see myself less as a thing that needs to defend itself and more as energy learning to broadcast with awareness. When life gets tight today, tomorrow, next week, pause and remember that. If this resonated, don't let it be a one-time spark. Subscribe, drop a comment about a moment when reality bent for you, and share this with someone going through a rough patch who needs a different lens. The field uses repetition and resonance to lock in new patterns. Next step? Watch if this has found you. It means you are making a quantum leap between convergent timelines, where we go deeper into acting less from force and more from alignment with this new identity of you as energy.